Rosa. I tossed and turned in bed, waiting for Bad Boy to return with my teddy. I sat up and played with the hem of my nightie. I laid down again and covered my face with my palms. Come already. I'm feeling sleepy. I frowned and tried to cover my eyes, but the lights were still on, so I opened them again. I looked at the door expecting it to open, but it didn't. I sighed and covered my face with a pillow, then closed my eyes. Bad Boy. I climbed up the stairs with the teddy in my left arm. I think I spent about 30 minutes in the living room. I opened the door to her room and saw her figure on the bed. I moved to her and a pillow was covering her face. Her nightie didn't cover her well, her thighs were exposed. I squatted down and ran my fingers on her thigh, close to the spot where the bullet hit her. It was almost healed up, she should be able to limp now. As a bad boy, I rubbed my full hand on her smooth white thighs. I smirked and squeezed it. I guess she felt it because she adjusted her legs and covered herself properly. I cracked and stood up, tucked the teddy under her arm and covered her with the duvet. I turned off the lights and left the room. I got to my room and met a message on my system telling me that the house I was supposed to spend the night before I changed my mind caught fire. The men inside died and some were badly injured. I wasn't totally surprised. I knew that Ron was onto me again. I don't have your time now. But I'll definitely teach you a lesson, Ron. What? What do you mean by that? We're sorry, boss, but Bad Boy wasn't involved in the fire. How? How could he dodge it? Boss, before you sent us on this mission, I told you that it wouldn't work because Bad Boy can't just be defeated by little means. He's more dangerous than you think. I clenched my fist. So what do we? I suggest we wait for an opportunity, sir. I hope you know that Byram is our inside man now. Yes, I know. Tell him immediately that he should give us every single detail about Bad Boy. Yes, boss. He bowed and left. I sat down and felt intense jealousy and hatred in me. Rosa. I opened my eyes and inhaled the sweet morning air. I sat up and yawned. Good morning. I smiled and looked down. I saw the teddy bear and smiled brightly. I took it and kissed it. Good morning, Teddy. Bad Boy must have brought it while I was asleep. I closed my eyes to say my prayers. Lord, thank you for waking me up this morning. I pray that you will make my day beautiful to your glory, in Jesus' name, amen. I opened my eyes and took my crutches, then stood up. I went to the bathroom and washed up, then went downstairs. When I reached the entrance of the kitchen, I was greeted by a sweet, tasty smell of food. I turned to the dining and entered in. I saw Bad Boy eating. He was wearing black pajamas. I stood gawking at him. He looked up and saw me. Hey princess. My eyes widened. Why are you just standing there? Come on, let's eat. I swallowed a lump in my throat and walked to the table. I sat down and bowed. Good morning, sir. Bad, come on, eat. I nodded and uncovered my food. I began to eat, but I was stealing glances at him, wondering why he was looking so happy today. I won't be at home for a few days. He took a glass of water and gulped it down. Why, business? I wanted to ask what type of business, but I knew he wouldn't tell me about it. It might be something illegal. And you have to be away for days? Yeah. Why? Would you miss me? I stopped chewing and stared at my food. He chuckled and I looked at him. I can't miss something like you. You'll miss me. I'm sure. I shrugged and continued to eat. Your wheelchair is in your closet. Oh, I even forgot about it. I drank water and he stood up looking at his phone. Are you leaving now? He smirked. Are you missing me already? What? No. See you in 1 week. He moved out of the chair. 1 week? What do you want me to do in this huge house all by myself in 1 week? He began to laugh. Bad Boy, I know you want me to stay. Just admit it. Gosh, you're misinterpreting me. You know what, why don't you just stay there for 2 weeks? Take all the time you need. Good, now you're talking. He moved away and I frowned at my food as if it is the reason for my anger. I got into my car and zoomed off into town. I stopped by a shop and decided to buy a pack of cigarettes. Not that I didn't have it, but I just felt like terrifying some people. I got down with my gun tucked into my trousers. My black shades were reflecting in the sun. My shoes were thick black leather boots and my outfit was pure ruggedity. The people in the store stared at me. Some people began to move away. I smirked and went to the counter. A pack of cigarettes, the lady hurriedly brought it and I paid her. I slowly moved out and entered into my car. I looked through the rear mirror and saw two men looking at my car and entering into their own car. I lighted my cigarette and slipped it in. Then I watched their car intently. It didn't move. I started my car and slowly moved out. They started their car too and began to follow me. I laughed and zoomed off. Their car too began to run faster. I zoomed by the woods and suddenly stopped, but I acted as if I didn't know they were onto me. I got down and sat on the bonnet of my car. Their car zoomed in and parked right in front of me. I was smoking and operating my phone. They stepped down and pointed their guns at me. I didn't even look up. One of the guys spoke up. "Guy, you might wanna say your last prayers." "Guy 2, we know you're alone, so don't try to scare us." I looked at them and dropped my cigarette. "Who sent you?" I stood up and walked to them. They immediately fired shots at me. I saw it coming with the help of my dark shades. I ducked and used my right leg to kick their two legs and they fell down. I stood up and held my waist, though I was actually ready to grab my gun from my trousers. They stood up and tried to shoot me again. I kicked the first guy's wrist and his gun fell down. The other one began to fight with me. He kicked my tummy with one leg and punched my chin. I used my two fists to punch his lower abdomen and then pushed him hardly on his tummy with my leg. The other guy had already carried his gun. He pointed it to my face and smirked. I raised my hands in surrender. He cocked the gun and I immediately bent down my raised hand. I held his fingers and pinned it to the gun. I twisted it and used his hand to pull the trigger on him. The bullet went right through his head. I dropped my cigarette and looked at the two bodies. The other guy wasn't dead, so I squatted beside him. "Should I leave you alive? Or kill you?" He groaned and rolled away. "Okay, I'll leave you alive. Go and tell whosoever sent you that you didn't succeed." I got up and entered into my car, then zoomed off. Fedora isn't expecting me today, but I'll surprise him by coming. He'll be so thrilled. I walked down the stairs of the airplane and strolled into the car my dad sent to pick me up. I went home and met him. He was happy to see me, but I just wanted to see Bad Boy. I called him immediately. "Hey, where are you? Why are you asking? Are you here already? You don't have to ruin the surprise, you know. Just come to my house, downtown. I'm waiting for you." I chuckled and hung up. I got into a car and drove to the house. I stepped down and strolled in. Some of the guards tried to stop me. They must be the new recruits. The old ones know me. I didn't argue with them. I just let them call Bad Boy. When they finally let me in, I went straight upstairs. I removed my sunglasses and gently opened his door. He was on the bed with his phone. "Hey," he looked up and smirked. "It's been a while," I smiled. "Yeah, I know." I pulled off my shoes and climbed the bed. He stretched his hand and pulled me. He dropped his phone and cupped. I was busy unbuckling his belt. Immediately my phone rang. I would have ignored it, but I was expecting a call. "You know that doesn't work on me," I gasped as he patted my legs and moved into me. "Rosa, I want to check the garden out today." "Well, I hope he has a garden." I already wore a blue dress and sat on my wheelchair. I wheeled myself outside through the back door and luckily, there's a garden. I looked through the pretty flowers. I got to a particular one that got me crying. It was Mom's favorite flower. She loved it so much. I used to steal them for her from people's gardens. Her favorite color is red, and that's why hibiscus is her favorite. I stayed in the garden watching butterflies and bees playing with the flowers that I didn't even know it was already lunchtime until a maid came to call me. Bad Boy. I lighted a cigarette and tried to move it into my mouth, but Fedora collected it and kissed me instead. I can't trade my cigarette with a kiss. She laughed and kissed my chest. I took the cigarette into my mouth and began to smoke. She was kissing my tummy down. Don't turn me on again. What if I do? You'll just do what you can do. Do you have any idea what I can do? Fedora, hey mister, I've seen every action of yours. Either with a woman or with a gun. I laughed and pulled her aside. I took my shorts and wore it, then strolled into the bathroom. I decided to tell her to join me, probably for another round, so I moved to the door. She was on a call, so I decided to let her be. I wanted to close the door when I heard her saying, "I'm with bad boy already, okay. You can count on me." I closed the door and stood there. Who was Fedora talking to? Rosa. I'm feeling really bored in this big house. I want something fun to do other than watching TV. And I'm tired of sitting down always. I miss walking, or maybe I should try and exercise the way Bad Boy said I should. I rolled to a pillar and held it firmly, then I stood up, hugging it. I moved backwards a little, but I felt like I was carrying tons of metals under my waist. My legs were so heavy. I moved round the pillar and jumped to another pillar. I walked round it again. I repeated this until I went round about 5 pillars. I held a window frame and walked round it to another window. The fresh breeze blowing outside tossed my hair around. I smiled, determined to go round the house. Whenever I got tired, I sat down on the ground for a few minutes. Workers passed and I waved at them. I looked up into the sky and mentally waved my mother. I got up again and continued until I reached the back door. I entered inside and managed to walk to the front door where my wheelchair was. I was so exhausted and was breathing heavily I wanted to sit down, but I needed something cold to drink. I thanked my stars when a maid walked in. "Please, please, I need something to drink, I'm dying." I sat on the floor and she chuckled and bowed. She went to the kitchen and returned with a tray containing a filled glass of orange juice and a large juice box. Some cakes were also on the tray. I hurriedly collected it and gulped it down. Bad boy. It's been 3 days with Fedora and damn, I love this girl. No single minute without pleasure. Seems she upgraded. Right now we're in a hotel room, she's making a phone call in the bathroom and I'm waiting for her. I haven't even called to check on Rosa. Maybe I should check up on her tomorrow, even though she said I should take 2 weeks. Fedora came back. Fedora, hey, bad news. Gotta go meet my manager over some things. You're leaving? Fedora, yeah. She walked towards me and gave me a kiss. Are we meeting today again? I don't think so. But I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, I kissed the tattoo on her neck and released her. She wore her clothes and left shortly after. I wore my clothes too and decided to go and see Rosa. Rosa. Truly, practice makes perfect. I'm already limping and I don't really need crutches or a wheelchair. I wish I could see Bad Boy and tell him I can now manage to walk on my own. I don't even have his number, nor a phone of my own. I hugged my teddy and limped outside into the dark nights. The house was fully bright with lights everywhere. I sat down at the facade and played with my teddy ears. The gate opened and a car came in. I watched, hoping it was Bad Boy. He came out and I smiled happily. I stood up and called him. Bad Boy. He looked surprised. I limped towards him and he smiled. You finally started limping. Yeah, I exercised like you said. He leaned on the car. So did you miss me? I frowned a little. No, I turned to go, but he pulled me back and laughed. Do you know why I came back? I shrugged. Because I miss you. My cheeks turned red, but I pretended as if those words didn't affect me. You're drunk again. He laughed and made me sit on the car. Why are you in a good mood today? He cracked and lighted a cigarette. He began to smoke and it was disturbing my breath. I was going to tell him to stop when someone called his name from the gate side. We looked and a girl came forward. Fedora. What are you doing here? Her eyes fell on me. Who's she and why are you two staying like that? I swallowed a lump. This is definitely not a good first impression on her side.